Yeah. Where is everyone?
They moved over.
A town in Alaska will pay you to not live there. But is it actually true? It turned out that it's not exactly as simple as that. You can't just move there to wait to pay you to move out. So no, it's not an infinite money glitch. But just like you, I also wanted to know, is this for real? Or am I fucking get scammed again? Look. It cannot happen twice. I first stumbled across this headline on Reddit between cat memes and a guy building a hot tube out of Legos. Yes, I'm not proud of it. Anyways, it literally said, this town pays you to not live there. At first I thought, okay, that can be real. I know Alaska is weird, but not so much, right? Then I kept seeing it on Twitter, Facebook, by the way, who the fuck uses Facebook today? And even in an ad which told, these are the 10 craziest town laws in America. So apparently the whole internet was obsessed with this story. But why does this grab us so hard? Or at least me. I guess because it feels like breaking some unspoken rule. Towns are always desperate to get people to move in, not out, right? The idea that you could just pack up, leave and get handed a check for your trouble, it's so backwards, it has to be true. Or at least too good to ignore. So is there really a town paying people not to live there? Or was I again just scammed? Not this time. First of all, let's picture what life in a tiny Alaskan town is actually like. And by the way, I'm not talking about Anchorage or even the bigger fishing towns. I'm rather talking about a place where you look out the window and see nothing. I mean nothing but endless forest, snowy mountains, or maybe just a frozen river. Sometimes you can stand on the main street and not see another soul for hours. Most of these towns have a population that wouldn't even fill a school bus. Maybe 30 people, maybe 10. Maybe 0. Sometimes you know everyone by their first name and even their dogs too. And winter? You better love winter. For more than half the year you get freezing temperatures, weeks where the sun barely rises and snow that stacks up past your knees. Shopping? Good luck, there is no supermarket. Oh no, where will I find my handcrafted, single origin, gold-dusted Dolce Gabbana inspired, diamond filtered matcha cafe now? Fuck you! Yeah, but what about the internet? If you are lucky, you get it slow and expensive. And as for pizza delivery, well, I hope you like reindeer sausage because Domino isn't coming. But for the people who stick out, there is a kind of magic to it. The northern lights, silence you can actually hear, and the widest sense of freedom you will ever find. Just you, the land, and maybe the occasional moose wandering down Main Street. But let's just stop a bit here. At first, why on earth would a town want people to live? Isn't the goal always to keep small towns alive? Well, here is the tough reality. It's all about the money, like always. Running a town, and even a tiny one, can be really expensive. The government has to pay for teachers, keep the power running, make sure there is clean water, and if someone gets sick, have some way to get them help. When a town only has 10, 20 or 30 people left, those basic services start to cost way more per person than in a city. Just imagine keeping an entire school open for just 5 or 6 weirdos. Or having to fly in a nurse because there aren't enough people to keep a clinic staffed. Or just paying to fix power lines that barely get used all winter long. And this list is infinite. Some remote Alaskan villages like like who the fuck write this script? Why can't it be like New York? I don't. Anyways, so the small towns have faced even bigger problems, like climate change. Erosion literally eats away the ground under homes, and thanks to inflation and everything else, rising costs make it impossible to fix everything. Sometimes it's actually cheaper for the state to pay people to relocate than to keep pouring money into a town that's falling apart. And did you know, there have been real government programs where officials help cover the costs of moving or provide support to entire communities who decide to leave. But to be frank, it's not a big cash prize for quitting your town. It's more like a last resort rescue for places on the edge. And it's not just Alaska. Tiny towns all over the world, from dying mining villages in the US Midwest to mountain hamlets in Italy, sometimes face the same hard choice. So when you hear about a town that pays you not to live there, the truth is sometimes there really is money on the table. But only because it's too expensive to keep the lights on just for a few people. And what's more interesting, like what actually happens when a town dies? It's not like flipping a switch or closing a store for the night. It's usually a slow fade. Sometimes sad, sometimes just weird, and always a little haunting. So let's see what it looks like. First, services start to disappear. Maybe the school shuts down because there aren't enough kids left to keep a teacher on payroll. The grocery store closes because there aren't enough customers. Doctors and nurses move on, and suddenly the nearest clinic is a 3-hour drive or a plane ride away. Then you start notice the little things. The lights go out in houses one by one. The only gas station where you bought your last cigarette is now boarded up. The roads stop getting maintenance. Beaches disappear from the city. I don't know, I just heard that. My friend told me. Anyways, and even the mail truck doesn't show up anymore. Hello, I still live here, I need my fucking letters, boy. But no, houses fall silent. Some families leave everything behind. Furniture, photos, toys, even dishes in the sink. Then nature creeps in. Grass slowly grows through cracked pavement, windows shatter in the wind, and animals move into empty homes. Some people call these places ghost towns, and that's exactly what they become. But it's not always just spooky and sad. Sometimes these towns find new life, maybe as tourist attractions or with a few stubborn holdouts who refuse to leave. You might find one old-timer still sitting on their porch, waving to nobody in particular, determined to stay until the very end. And in rare cases, a dying town gets reborn with new industry and remote workers. Still, most of the time when a town dies, it quietly fades from the map. No headlines, no ceremony. Just silence, broken only by the wind, a few memories, and maybe the distant howl of a coyote. But even if Alaska isn't literally paying people to live with a stack of cash, there are some pretty wild stories out there about towns and even whole countries paying people to actually move in, just to prevent extinction, you know. Like, I guess you have heard of Italy's $1 houses. Some Italian villages are so desperate for new people that they have started selling old homes for just $1. But the thing is that you have to fix them up. I mean not the Italians, the houses. You can't fix the Italians.
Mai preso stipendio!
And actually you need to live there. And this is still not a bad deal if you ever wanted to become an Italian local. Then there are some small towns in the US, for example. Tulsa, Oklahoma pays remote workers $10,000 over 1 year, plus co-working space access to move there and work from there. Then Newton, Iowa offers $10,000 in cash and a $2,500 bonus for home buyers who build a house worth $190,000 or more. Also, Lincoln, Kansas gives away free residential lots for people willing to build a house and settle in the community. And don't forget about Harmony, Minnesota. They provide up to $12,000 cash rebate for people who build a new home in town. So in the end, why does a story like "this town pays you not to live there" go viral, even if it's only half true at best? For one thing, the internet loves stories that sounds too weird to be real. If something feels like it breaks the rules of normal life, people can't help but click, share and tell their friends. And maybe that's why I'm telling fake stories all the time to my friends. And who knows, maybe one day you will get an offer to move to the middle of nowhere, or you will help bring a dying town back to life. Stranger things have happened, especially in Alaska. Because you know what happened in Alaska, right? You have heard that, right? No? So you haven't heard that the... I guess we will never know what happened in Alaska.